What's up everyone? In this video, I've got another junk removal job and I'm gonna go over everything from how I quoted it to what I learned while I was doing it. So stay tuned. So when I added the junk removal service to my business, I wanted to hit as many cheap advertising platforms as I could. So I drew up a new logo and put that on a business card to get the word of mouth out there. I made a $5 post on Craigslist just showing the same thing that's on the business card and showing what we offer. And then I jumped straight into establishing an online presence and I started posting on my Facebook, Instagram. I made a business page for Google and also a Yelp page. Now when I made that Yelp page, they reached out to me a few days later and offered some free advertising, and I didn't want to turn that down, so I gave it a shot. Once we had that all set up, I was ready for clients to start rolling in, and one ended up coming in and they had an estate that needed cleaned out. So he had me over to check out and quote some furniture removal from the house. So when I got there, he started showing me around and we started talking and I was asking about everything that needed to go. So by the time we went through the whole house, I gave him a price and I told him that I was expecting to rent a 6x12 U-Haul trailer that was enclosed just so I can do it all in one trip. And I quoted him $500 and I let him know that it could go up or down depending on how many loads it takes or if I was off on the dump fees, because that's something I wasn't super familiar with around here in Toledo. That set fee goes by truckload or per axle on the trailer that you have. So a single axle is a certain amount and a double axle is even more. So jumping back to the quote, I told him that I had some availability the next day that I could get started and start pulling everything out for him. But he ended up not replying to me that night, and about midday the next day, he reached out to me and asked if I could come grab some stuff. And my real estate appointments had booked up by then, so I wasn't actually able to make it over there that day. But I told him that I could come by the next day and start pulling everything out for him. Anyways, skip forward to the next day. And I get there with the U-Haul trailer ready to go with a helper. And they ended up getting rid of all of the furniture that I was quoted. And that's no big deal. I was expecting to sell some of that furniture, but we were able to still make something work. They had me rolling up all the carpet and just pulling all the trash out of the basement, cleaning some trash bags out of the first floor. It wasn't a huge job, but it ended up filling up that full 6x12 trailer. By the time we got to the point of being completely loaded up and them owing me money, while we did get it done pretty quickly in a few hours, I wasn't totally expecting it to take that long. So I just tacked down an extra $100 and charged them $600. And this was my first time actually having to drop something at the dump. And I went to the closest one, and when I got there, I weighed in, and she told me that it was going to be $180 to completely unload that trailer. So I didn't want to deal with that. I knew there was somewhere else that I could go cheaper. So I drove 15 minutes south and ended up dumping for $180. So I asked the lady at the dump some questions just about dumping and the fees associated with it. And I learned that I can open a business account with them and get a little bit cheaper rate. So I did that the following day. However, I wasn't able to get that rate that day. And so I just ended up paying the $180. And unloading was much easier than actually loading it. I just backed the trailer up to a dumpster that was sitting lower than the platform that we were standing on and just started chucking all the garbage in there. So it was super easy. We were out of there in like a half hour. So I'm going to start to talk a little bit about the costs of the job. I had a helper that day and I paid him $70 to help me out. It ended up being around 4 hours, so he made around 15 bucks an hour, a little bit over. And we also had the fee for the U-Haul trailer, which ended up being $32.12 for 6 hours. And we also had a dump fee, which was $181 even. So I still ended up being profitable on that job, and I made $316.88. Now I am just going to dump that back into the company and focus on investing in myself so that I can keep growing it and making more money. Let's quickly talk about the things I learned while I was doing this job. Now, the first thing I learned was to just quickly think if something's going wrong and adjust it to where it'll work in everyone's benefit. You want to make sure you keep helping them, but you don't want to sacrifice what you're getting paid. Also, water beds take a really long time to drain, so you want to make sure that you start draining it at the beginning of the job. Now we did that, but it shifted to where it wasn't draining anymore, and we had to keep readjusting it as we were going. And it ended up taking a lot longer than we anticipated. So charge more for water beds if you come across them. And the final thing that I learned was I should have set up a business account at the dump before I went and dumped there, because I paid an extra $80 instead of having that account set up to where I could have dumped for $100. Call around your dumps, get the prices, see if you can set up a business account, and hopefully you'll be able to save yourself some money at that point. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on if you have any questions, and I'll be sure to get to it. I'll catch you in the next one.